I serve as the regulatory facilitator for the Lake Elsinore and Canyon Lake Task Force. And I've been doing that now, I think I'm on year 7, sounds about right, year 6, year 7, maybe year 8. The COVID years were a little bit of a blur. I think we all can appreciate that. But today I just want to talk a little bit, for those of you that don't know us and some of you that do know us, who we are, why do we exist, and what are we doing? I think are the 3 most important questions that usually come up. And there are a number of those task force members and representatives here today. I'd appreciate them being here because they're the ones doing all the hard work. I just get to sit around the table and help facilitate the conversation. So who are we? Well, we are representatives from various agencies that are regulated by the Santa Ana Water Board. So when Eric was talking this morning about those stormwater dischargers that he regulates, he's talking about us. When he's talking about that irrigated ag program that he regulates, he's talking about us. When he talks about March Air Force Base and all the other types of dischargers that may have sediment that goes into the San Jacinto River and Salt Creek that ends up in Canyon Lake and Lake Elsinore, he's talking about us. But why do we exist? And we exist, and first I should say, and those representatives here today include the Riverside Flood Protection Control District and a number of cities, and they are active participants that we cannot do it without. So I'm glad you guys are here today. You can clean up whatever mess I leave behind. So why do we exist? Well, we exist because in 2004, the Santa Ana Water Board adopted total maximum daily loads for Canyon Lake and Lake Elsinore. As Adam pointed out this morning, there have been impaired water body issues for the lakes for a number of years, and the Water Board, under its Clean Water Act authority, adopted TMDLs back then in order to try to address the impairment and to fix the lakes. And I don't have any slides, folks, so this is just pretty pictures. You just got me today. So TMDLs were necessary because of the impairments for nutrients and for aquatic life beneficial uses as well. And most of you know what a TMDL is, but just in case you don't, what is a TMDL? It's essentially a calculation of how much loading a waterway, or in this case the 2 lakes, can assimilate and still maintain its beneficial uses. We often look at it as a pie. How big is my slice of the loading pie? If I'm a big discharger, my slice is probably a little bit bigger. If I'm a small discharger, I probably get a smaller piece of that pie. But the whole idea is that the pie represents how much we can all load collectively together, which means we have to work together. So when the TMDL was adopted by the Santa Ana Water Board, it also included an implementation plan that addressed and included a number of actions that these dischargers that the regional board regulates were going to have to implement to protect the lakes. So to better coordinate implementation of these many actions, such as monitoring water quality for the lakes and water bodies draining to the lakes, the TMDL task force was born. After implementing the 2004 TMDL, so we have the task force, we were born, we come together, already told you who we are. We now have to implement this 2004 TMDL, which we have been doing over the last 20 years. But it also became apparent in about 15 years into implementing the task force that the original TMDL needed some work. We had new data, we had new information, and we needed to do new modeling. So starting in 2015, the task force, in conjunction with the Santa Ana Water Board, and actually the Santa Ana Water Board staff is a critical member of the TMDL task force. We started down the road on a multi-year process to do new modeling of both lakes using the most updated data and information that we had, using historical data going back hundreds of years, and using some of the best experts that we know that know about the lakes and nutrients and nutrient modeling. And over the couple of years, 3-year process, We built models. We had technical consultants develop memorandum. We had major policy discussions as to how do we do this, what's the best approach in order to update the TMDL. And it took 3 years, more than 3 years, and we prepared and developed an updated TMDL using this best available science. The first iteration of that revised TMDL was circulated for review in early 2019. It included a rigorous peer review process by 6 different academics from various disciplines. The peer reviewers finished their peer review sometime in the fall of 2019. They had a number of questions. We had regional board staff have a number of questions. And after 2019, the task force embarked on an additional process to answer those questions about the modeling, the data, the information, and the approach in the TMDL. And again, all along the way, working with the Santa Ana Water Board staff. This led to another 5 years of studies, modeling refinements, technical report revisions, and development of comprehensive multi-decadal implementation plan that is designed to return the lakes to their original reference conditions. So last year, on July 25th, 2025, the Santa Ana Water Board adopted the revised TMDLs. Thank you, Board Member Scandini. We much appreciate the support we received from the Regional Water Board. But this process is not done. When we do TMDLs in California and we amend the basin plan, we also have to have those basin plan amendments approved by the State Water Resources Control Board, the Office of Administrative Law, and in this case, because it was a TMDL, US EPA. So where we are now, Regional Board has done its job. We are now at the State Water Board. My understanding is the State Water Board will be noticing its public process for review of the TMDL soon. And hopefully the State Water Board will consider it sometime late summer, early fall. It will then go to the Office of Administrative Law and then to US EPA. It does not become effective until it has gone through all those steps, which is probably still another year away when you consider State Water Board and EPA and Office of Administrative Law in there. But let me assure you, that hasn't stopped the task force from moving forward and doing what we need to do to implement this new TMDL. So importantly, the new TMDL is divided into 2 phases. We call it phase 2 because phase 1 was 2004 to the new TMDL. Phase 2, which will be year 1 from the effective date till 20 years, and phase 3, which is years 21 through 30. I'm sure many of you are saying, wow, that's a really long time. And you're right, it is. But nutrients and nutrient cycling is extremely complex, as Adam and Ben can tell us in their work at Lake Elsinore, and answers don't come quickly, change doesn't happen quickly, and work has to be done in an iterative and a very sound approach. So yes, it is a long time, but we're not waiting for it to be in effect. The task force is already starting early work with this process. Importantly, with the TMDL, there are 19 tasks just for the first 20 years. But many of those tasks are ongoing annual things that we do as a task force. We continue to meet and have our stakeholder coordination with the Santa Ana Water Board, all of the permittees, irrigated ag program, also includes Department of Fish and Wildlife for state properties that are subject to the TMDL, and some other entities that also fall under the TMDL. We meet sometime monthly, sometimes every other month, doing the work that we need to do. Other things that we do always continually is we have a surveillance and monitoring program where we monitor the river, San Jacinto River, Salt Creek, Lake Elsinore, and Canyon Lake. And I'll let the actual monitoring people tell you far more about it, because I'll just make it up and I'll just mess it up. So Chris and John are going to cover some of what's been going on the monitoring component. But we monitor extensively every year. We prepare an annual report that is submitted to the Regional Water Board. That continues forward today. It will continue forward for the next 20 and 30 years. But some of these other tasks that are new tasks that we are undertaking, many of them which have already been started, is, and I've tried to pull out the ones that I think are of most interest to all of you. First of all, we have Task 4. Task 4 is the evaluation of existing Canyon Lake projects. Many of you know part of the TMDL program has included the application of alum in Canyon Lake to sequester phosphorus in the hopes to make sure we have improvements in the nutrients. And we have shown great success with the alum applications. But there's some issues now that Chris and John are going to talk about next with respect to that program. But even before then, we knew we had to reevaluate, because we never want to stop, right? Science changes, information is new, information is learned. And so one of our tasks is to reevaluate our alum application program in Canyon Lake, the offsets that we use with them, and to evaluate other options with respect to helping to control nutrients in Canyon Lake. That work has already started. We're not waiting for the TMDL to be effective. Another one, Task 5. We have to do the same thing for projects for improving Lake Elsinore water quality. That task has also already started. We have the LESJWA operators, known as the City of Lake Elsinore, Riverside County, and Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District are our LESJWA operators who have been working collectively on what is this evaluation going to be. Is there a potential replacement of the existing LEAM system? Adam gave a great presentation on the fabulous work that the City of Lake Elsinore is doing with nanobubbles. Other technology is also being explored, because it's probably a combination of things. That work is already started and already ongoing. Task 6 is then, once we know what the preferred implementation is for Lake Elsinore, it has to be implemented. And there will be work plans and implementation plans that go along with that. In Task 8, we are evaluating cyanobacteria in Lake Elsinore and looking for options to manage cyanobacteria and toxicity. Those are those HABs that Eric talked about earlier. While the TMDL itself does not have specific loads for cyanobacteria and harmful algae blooms, it's all related, and we absolutely are not forgetting about HABs. We also have to evaluate in Task 10 the performance of various watershed controls. This happens for those by watershed controls. I mean those permittees that are permitted by the Regional Water Board have watershed management plans, or we call them comprehensive nutrient management plans, of what they are doing upstream in order to try to prevent nutrients from entering the lakes, or how we participate in offsets to do with nutrients that do make it to the lakes. We have to evaluate the performance of those watershed controls, because the program is continuously iterative. It does not stop. Next, in Task 12, we need to study the bottom of the lakes and sediment, and do sediment sampling, and look at core flux. Don't ask me what that means. Leave it to Chris and John next. But we are undertaking work that has to be done to make sure what we do for the lakes and how we're regulated for the lakes is done in a watershed, sound, scientific basis that's thoughtful and iterative amongst all that participate. What else are we going to do? Task 13 is fisheries management. We have done surveys of fish in Lake Elsinore. We will be doing it again. I think it's in year 10. So the last one I think we did was in 2019. We will be undergoing that again. Helps to make us understand the population of fish in the lake, where we have, predatory fish, invasive fish, healthy fisheries. Obviously, Lake Elsinore is very important to the local recreational community, and that is a big part of making sure that we have a good, stable fish habitat. We're also, in Task 14 through 17, we're going to reevaluate the effectiveness of this TMDL that we've been implementing for the last 20 years. So the work never stops. And after we reevaluate the effectiveness, we're probably looking at, does it need to be revised? Or do we then go into phase 3, which is years 21 through 30? All at the time, there's a regulatory backstop in that with the TMDL, permittees get permit limits that basically limit the amount of load of sediment and nutrients that can go into the lakes, hoping that by limiting the amount of nutrients, we can better improve the water quality of the lakes. But these are not easy limits to meet. The new TMDL has ratcheted them down significantly and makes it very difficult for permittees to meet these limits, meaning we are always going to be looking for alternative compliance ways, because the permittees, whatever they spend, comes back to their ratepayers, right? Which is all of us that live here in the watershed. And so we want to be conscious to make sure that what we can do is reasonable, protective of water quality, and is done in an iterative way. I just wanted to share what we are doing with the TMDL task force. There is a lot more to come. We stay active, and thank you to all the task force members. Parag, Elsinore Valley is also here today because we can't do it without our task force members and the work that's done, and participation from folks like Adam and Ben and all of the different task force participants, Riverside Flood Control. So thank you very much, and I'd love to answer any questions if anybody has any.